Hey, welcome to another episode of Mini BTP, where we just do one topic in a shorter amount of time. I'm Brandon Mileski. He's Pat Micheletti. We are continuing our Vision for the Division series. And Pat, we're halfway through the Central Division. Let's go to the top half from last season. We'll talk about the Winnipeg Jets today. Another team that, we've talked with previous teams, Pat, about kind of this change with a lot of these old guards with some of these top players. But Chicago, they're losing Kane and Taves. That era is over. St. Louis, the Tarasenko and O'Reilly era is over.
Yep.
Even Nashville sent away Johansson and Duchesne. And Winnipeg's kind of in a similar boat where they release or waive Blake Wheeler. There's been rumors all offseason long about Connor Hellebuck and Mark Scheifele. They trade one of their top centers and Pierre-Luc Dubois. So another team that's kind of changing as we move along here, or at least potentially changing here with the Jets.
Well, the whole key, in my opinion, with Winnipeg is what happens or doesn't happen with Scheifele and Hellebuck. If they keep them, re-sign them, wait till the trade deadline, whatever, they have a very sneaky good lineup with the trade that they made with Dubois to the Kings, and they get Velarde, who is a really, he's kind of under the radar, but he had a really, really good year for the Kings, and Alex Iafallo, who makes the Kings, signs with them as a free agent, doesn't spend a day in the minors, and has been kind of he played with Kopitar a lot in his years with the Kings. So he comes to the Jets as a kind of a veteran now. And so if you look at their lineup top to bottom, it's really, really balanced. And I know for years we've talked about their defensive core and, how it's boy, if they could only add that defenseman. Well, now they've got, the Nate Schmidt, he'll be in, I think, his third year there, second or third with the Jets. Dylan Samberg, who played at UMD, is really becoming a pretty good player. So he's got some experience. And, Josh Morrissey, who, almost won the Norris a year ago, just fabulous player. So, again, if you're looking at the Jets and they are able to keep Scheifele and Hellebuck, that's a team that, is I think is maybe a notch above some of the other teams in the Central.
Yeah, it's interesting, Pat, because this is a team that I thought might emerge last year, and they kind of had an okay season and didn't really emerge. But you look at some of the components they have. If Hellebuck's there, Hellebuck has potential to be one of the better goalies in the National Hockey League. Offensively, they've always been able to score a little bit, especially on the power play. And Kyle Connor emerged last year as maybe a potential star in this league. Like, they have some pieces up front. They've got a goaltending. You mentioned the defensive. Like, if everything is put together, I don't know if there's something in the water or there's a culture issue there. I don't know if there's a locker room issue. But every year you go into going, man, this team does have potential to, maybe be one of the better teams in the division.
Well, Mark Scheifele is we all know a fabulous player. Now, and I even talked to Nate Schmidt a little bit about him this summer when I ran into Nate, and Nate says, you know what, he's a good guy. We get along, all this stuff off the ice, but there's something that doesn't resonate between Scheifele and the coach, Scheifele and the management, and that's been a problem for them, and they're going to have to make a decision, or either re-sign the guy, come to some type of agreement where they all get along a little bit better, because when Mark Scheifele is the guy. I mean, him and Kyle Connor are the two main pieces now of that team, and so depending upon what the market is for him, what he wants financially, we're going to have to wait and see how this plays out. But when he plays, he's one of the top centermen in the league. There's no question.
It should be an interesting, I think, first half of the season for Winnipeg, because they are a team that, if they're not meeting their expectations by the time the trade deadline, this team could be in sell mode big time, right?
Yeah.
And I look at This team is not committed to a lot of players past 2 seasons, Pat. Even just the amount of money that's going to come off the books after this season. Scheifele is in the last year of his deal, just over $6 million. Hellebuck, basically the same contract. 1 more year left at just over $6 million. They've got 2 $3 million defensemen in Brendan Dillon and Dylan DeMello. And Dylan's almost $4 million. Nito Niederreiter has $4 million left just for 1 season. So this is a team that, could be having about $20 million coming off the books this year. And then even the following season, they have a bunch of players like Nate Schmidt and Neil Pionk that are almost making $6 million. Iafallo is making $4 million. They're all coming off the books the following season. They only have 3 players on this team right now that are committed for the 2025-2026 season. So this could be a huge transformation, and a lot of it's going to depend here on these first couple months of this season.
Yeah, I think you're 100% correct because, if guys get the feeling, hey, we have a chance to win, I am willing to re-sign here. And then Kevin Cheveldayoff, the GM's going to say, is this the guy I want to potentially be part of us making a run? And a lot of unanswered questions. If they, what you just discussed and what I brought up, you call it noise, right? If they can forget the noise and just play, this lineup has the potential. I'm not saying they're Stanley Cup contenders, but when you have a goaltender like Hellebuck and some of the forwards that they have up front, they can make some noise. So you're right. This first quarter of the season, where are they in the stand? Where are they at Thanksgiving, right? We always look at Thanksgiving as a time where, this team is has a pretty good chance of making the playoffs, or they're going to have to do a heck of a lot to get there. And so I think we'll know by Thanksgiving, just kind of where this team is at and what they're thinking.
Let's talk about some of those pieces up front. Over the years, Patrick Laine has moved on.
Yep.
Blake Wheeler, longtime captain there, he's no longer there. You mentioned Scheifele. He could be gone any minute. He might be gone at some point this year. Kyle Connor has emerged out of the University of Michigan, 31 goals last season, led the team with 80 points. Still 26 years old, so he's in the prime of his career. And then another guy I've always liked. It's just I don't know if he
I know
can't stay.
I know where you're going.
He couldn't stay healthy last year, but
right.
on a per minute basis, he had more points than anyone in the league last year, including Connor McDavid, and that would be Nikolai Ehlers. Man, if the guy could just stay healthy and put it all together, I still think he could be a pretty darn good player.
And remember when, and I don't know if this was an accurate rumor, but there was a rumor floating where he was offered to Minnesota for Matt Dumba. I think that was in the Paul Fenton early stages of that, where, Paul was, looking to move some guys. He ended up moving Niederreiter and Coyle and all that kind of stuff. But there was a thought that he might come to Minnesota. I agree. If the kid can stay healthy, I mean, he can absolutely fly and he can finish. And we've been looking for that person here for a long time. Finally have one in Kaprizov. But yes, if Nikolai Ehlers can stay healthy, you add him with Connor and you have Velarde and you have depth throughout that lineup. Adam Lowry seems like he's been there forever. Just a consummate penalty killer, big, strong centerman. Not great, but pretty darn good. So they have some forwards up front who can get it done.
Yeah, and their farm system, I wouldn't say is super elite. And given this is an organization that might be in transition here a little bit, you'd like to have a little more depth stacked up from a prospect standpoint. But one guy that does stick out to me, Pat, he was taken right after Marco Rossi,
right,
in that draft a couple of years ago. Cole Perfetti, 8 goals, 22 assists last year in just 51 games. And a nice little start to his young career, but given they still might lose a guy like Scheifele here moving forward, they're going to be dependent on a guy like Perfetti to keep growing.
Well, with the Blake Wheeler move, that should free up more power play time for him. And you progress as a player, right? I mean, the perfect example I always use is Eriksson Ek, and where he was, and did we think he was really going to be a good pro? I mean, it took him, what, 3.5, 4 years to really find his niche. And now he's one of the top centermen, two-way centermen in the league. So Perfetti, yeah, he gets 8 goals last year. And what'd you say, 22 assists?
Yeah.
That those numbers, I don't want to say should double, but they should increase now. And if that does for him, that's really going to help Winnipeg.
All right, Pat, the next time I talk to you, we'll be talking about the Minnesota Wild and our vision for the division series.
Looking forward to that, Brandon.
All right, he's Pat Micheletti. I'm Brandon Mileski. This has been another episode of Mini BTP, and we'll continue our vision for this division series with the Minnesota Wild next. Thank you so much for watching and listening to a Mini Beyond the Pod.